Welcome back everyone, it is Eric from Rare Candy, and today I'm going to be breaking down another Lost Origin deck I've been messing with, and that's going to be the brand new Rotom V Porygon2 deck. Definitely not probably on the same hype level as something like the new Giratina or Hisuian Zoroark, but after getting in some games with this thing, I have pretty quickly discovered it has some crazy one-hit KO potential. We're basically just going all in on, chucking away tool cards today to do massive amounts of damage. That's the idea with this deck, at least. And before we hop into the meat and potatoes of this deck list, today's video is brought to you at the request of one of Rare Candy's patrons, Fred Neilan. Big shout out to Fred for all of his support. So if you guys want to have a bigger say over the content on the channel and help support it in the process, I'll be sure to drop a link down below in the description today. And also guys, if you're not quite ready for Lost Origin and you still need some Pokemon Go or Astral Radiance codes, friends of the channel over at PokeXWord.com are actually running a giveaway until the 27th where they're giving away 100 free codes. They're a really cool site that drop these weekly Pokemon and Pokemon TCG themed crossword puzzles you can do. And stay on the lookout too, because they're actually working on dropping daily puzzles in the future as well. But if you guys do want to win those 100 codes, all you have to do is go to the giveaway post on Twitter and follow the instructions there. I'll have a link to all this stuff today down below in the description. But with that being said, let's check out this Rotom deck. So as you would probably expect, we have 4 copies of the brand new Rotom V coming out in the new Lost Origin set. It does only have 190 HP, so it is one of the weaker Pokemon V running around, but we do have a couple ways at fixing that in this deck list too. Taking a look at the rest of this card, it has an ability that says we can draw 3 cards and end our turn. So it's kind of like a diet version of Intrepid Sword that we've seen on Zacian V. We don't get any extra energy attachments or anything like that, but still, ending your turn by drawing 3 cards is still nice. That is going to help us get set up a little bit better. And Rotom's attack here for 2 lightning energy, put any amount of tool cards in our discard pile into the lost zone, and then the attack does 40 plus 40 more for each one that we put in the lost zone in this way. So just think about it this way, every time we pitch away 6 tool cards, we're going to be able to one-shot opposing Pokemon V Star. And while that seems like maybe a lot to ask for every time we attack, we run quite a few tool cards in this list, as you'll see. But eventually we are going to run out of Pokemon tool cards, and we need something to pivot into after that point in the game comes. And that's where the new Porygon2 is going to come into play. But we are choosing to play the new Porygon. I will point that out. It's nothing too groundbreaking, but I do think it's probably the best of the Porygons that we have in the format. For the first attack, you get to rearrange the order. I think it's actually of either yours or your opponent's deck. Either way, I'll have the correct translation on screen for you guys. But sometimes that can be just a nice consistency booster if you are struggling to get going. Porygon2, however, is going to be a little bit more important for the deck. So it too has an attack cost of just a colorless energy, but this thing does 20 for each Pokemon tool card in the Lost Zone. So again, guys, after we have chucked away plenty of those tool cards into the Lost Zone with a couple of Rotoms, we pivot into Porygon in the late game to kind of just nuke anything that gets in our path at that point. But Porygon's not the only stage 1 colorless Pokemon we're playing. We are also playing a 2/2 Burrell line in the deck as well. Of course, for that Industrious Incisors ability that allows you to draw up to 5 cards in your hand, we constantly need Pokemon tool cards in our hand to discard. So not only can Burrell maybe help us find some tool cards from time to time, but just having outs to more cards every turn in general is just such a good ability to have. Up next from there, we have a copy of Diancie in the deck. For that Princess's Cheers ability, if Diancie is our active Pokemon, it's going to prevent our opponent's supporters from targeting our benched basic Pokemon. Most notably, if we are going second with our deck and we get down a Rotom V with a lightning energy and we can't start attacking just yet, if our opponent were to use something like Boss's Orders, that would be devastating. So we need something like Diancie to sort of protect our initial Rotom at the beginning of the game. We also have a copy of Manaphy in the deck for that Wave Veil ability. That's of course going to prevent bench damage done to us. Porygon2 caps out at 90 HP, Diancie has 90 HP, Bidoofs have 70 HP. There's quite a few ways our bench could get sniped, and Manaphy's just going to help us out with that a little bit. Next up from there though, we have a copy of Galarian Articuno V, a card we don't see too often. But it actually has an ability that works super well with this deck. You get to discard 2 cards from your hand and then draw a card. So of course, guys, we're trying to pitch away tool cards, and Articuno basically gives us a plus 80 damage every turn of the game that we use it. The 1 card we get sometimes can be nice, but it's really just a bonus in addition to discarding our tool cards. And the last Pokemon of the deck we're playing is just 1 copy of Lumineon V to be able to search a supporter out of our deck whenever we bench it. We don't play too many supporters in this list overall, so just being able to find the few that we do have is, I think, pretty important. And speaking of those supporters, we have 4 copies of Professor's Research just to discard our hand, draw 7. Research was already pretty much like the best draw supporter we had in the game, and being able to pitch away tool cards in the process only makes it an even better card for this deck. But in addition to that, we are also playing one copy of Raihan in the deck. We can only play this if a card was knocked out on our opponent's last turn, but we get to attach a basic energy card from our discard to one of our Pokemon and search our deck for any card. One of the big issues that Rotom V does have is that annoying double lightning energy attack cost. And there are going to be instances where our opponent does maybe get rid of our EXP shares, which, spoiler, we do play in this list. We still need a way at being able to set up a fresh attacker out of nowhere. And the only other supporter we're playing in the deck is just a single copy of Boss's Orders, which looks a little bit weird, but in my experience with this deck, you rarely ever want a boss until literally like the last turn of the game or the second to last turn, because really it's just a race to discard tool cards, and we rather use research almost every turn of the game leading up to the very end. And for our stadium of choice in the deck, we have 2 copies of Pokestop as well. As you can see, we don't play a lot of ways at drawing cards with our supporters, so we need some other ways at sort of helping out and finding more resources every turn. Pokestop in particular does work really well for this deck. Of course, we get to look at the top 3 cards of our deck, keep any item cards that we find there, and discard the rest. Being able to maybe grab 2, even 3 Pokemon tools if you're lucky enough, and then researching them away is just such a strong combo from turn to turn. Now, I will also say I have gone back and forth on my stadium of choice. I think you also could choose to play Shopping Center. It's a card I've also grown to really like in the deck. But right now, for this current iteration, I am playing the Pokestop just for a little bit of extra consistency. But getting into the many item cards that we're playing here, we have 4 copies of Quick Ball up first just to discard a card from our hand and of course find a basic Pokemon in the process. And for just 1 more card discarded, we can also grab any Pokemon out of our deck with Ultra Ball. Up next from there though, we do have 1 copy of Ordinary Rod in the deck. So we are just kind of trying to blow through our deck, just constantly discarding things with Pokestop, research, even our ball search cards. And sometimes we are going to lose some Pokemon along the way. And we definitely want some outs to be able to get those back, especially our Porygons, to be able to make sure we have those for the late game. And we also have a copy of Palpad in the deck as well, to be able to get back 2 supporter cards from our discard. One of the issues that Pokestop does have is that it only applies to item cards. We can't get stadiums, we can't get supporter cards, so we don't want to lose that one of Raihan or that one of Boss's Orders that we have in deck. And the last non-Pokemon tool card that we're going to be running is 1 copy of the brand new Toolbox item card, which pretty perfectly slots into a deck like this, since with it we get to look at the top 7 cards of our deck, and we get to choose any Pokemon tool cards that are there and put them into our hand. So I could imagine a world where you just cut this for another Pokemon tool card, but because of how many we play in this deck, every time I've played this card, I feel like I'm netting 2 to 3 on average. And suddenly, if we have a research in hand, being able to discard 2 to 3 tools is definitely better than have this been another random tool we could have chosen to play. But speaking of our Pokemon tools, up first we have 4 copies of Air Balloon in the deck to give our Pokemon 2 less retreat. And also what I'd say is probably the other most important tool card we have in the deck is going to be 4 copies of EXP Share. Super important card because again of that really annoying double lightning energy attack cost. We need ways at being able to chain our Rotoms on back-to-back turns in case they do get knocked out, which is pretty likely since it has pretty low HP. But of course, whenever our active is knocked out, we can take a basic energy from that Pokemon and attach it to the Pokemon on our bench that has the EXP Share on it. We also have 4 copies of Choice Belt in the deck just to do 30 extra damage to Pokemon V. So most of the time, this is better off just being in your discard, but if you've already played your research for turn, you've already used your Articuno, and you have no other ways at discarding cards from hand, sometimes being able to slap down a Choice Belt to do a little bit of extra damage is still nice though. From there, we also have 3 copies of Lucky Egg in the deck, and if we do have kind of a dead hand or something, we can slap Lucky Egg down onto our active Pokemon, and if it gets knocked out, we get to refill our hand up to 7 cards. And then from there, the only other Pokemon tool we're going to be playing is 3 copies of Cape of Toughness. So Cape of Toughness is going to increase our HP of our basic Pokemon by 50. Much like in the case of most of these tools, we would rather just discard Cape, but because of how weak Rotom V is, and some of our other multi-prize Pokemon like Lumineon and Galarian Articuno, sometimes slapping down a Cape is actually going to keep them out of one-shot range, especially against things like Arceus V-Star, which is usually capped out around 180 to 200 damage. And for our energies here, we have 2 copies of Speed Lightning Energy in the deck. Fantastic card for Lightning decks. Whenever we attach it to our Lightning Pokemon, it's going to allow us to draw 2 cards. Obviously, this is a card we'd want to play a lot more of, but the big issue with Speed Lightning is that it does not actually work with EXP Share or Raihan. So I think we can probably only get away with playing 2. And then from there, we have 5 basic lightning energies to round out the list. Not a very heavy energy count, but again, guys, we have to keep in mind here, not only do we have the Ordinary Rod to get back these energies, we also have the 4 EXP shares and the Raihan and the Pal Pad to potentially reuse Raihan. So if anything, if you're going to include anything else, I think Energy Search would make sense. That way you could hit energy off of Pokestop at that point. So that's where I'm at right now with the Rotom V Porygon2 deck. Rotom is certainly a bit of a glass cannon here. This thing actually can pretty easily one-shot a lot of the popular Pokemon in the format, but it does only have 190 HP. So between that and the awkward double energy cost and the large amount of deck space you have to dedicate to Pokemon tools, it does have a couple issues, but being able to one-shot most cards in the format is still a really attractive trait for the deck to have. But I want to hear from you guys down below in the comment section. What do you guys think about this deck today? Do you think this archetype has any potential? Are there any cards you think I should have included in this list? Let me know your full thoughts down below in the comment section. But as always, guys, if you did enjoy today's content, remember to leave a like on the video. And if you're feeling a little bit extra generous and want to take that support to the next level, you can also become a patron at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or pick up some merch at rarecandytcg.com. Links to everything will be down below in the description. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.